Okay, Kieran here. Hello. This little exercise will be running through using Camera Raw, Photoshop um, to make basic adjustments to an image, but primarily fixing color casts. Even before I start, and I'm just going to hold down the Shift key and open this Camera Raw file as a smart object. I can see here the little icon at the corner there. Means that I've got it open as a smart object in the filter menu. That's going to allow me to launch that smart object inside the Camera Raw dialog. Okay, so I'm using Camera Raw here to sort out some adjustments. I'm going to do the basic things. First of all, I can see two problems straight off. Obviously, it's very, very underexposed, this image, but it's not a total loss. If I'm just going to start off by setting it, opening up by 2 stops, the equivalent of 2 stops by setting the number 2 in the exposure area. Typing the letter P, I can see that I'm starting to recover detail and that sort of stuff, which is great, but I'm also losing a little bit at the top there, not that that's such a big deal. The next step, I'm just going to give a little bit of work into the shadows area. Open up those shadows and the blacks. I'm ignoring the warnings. I'm going to come back and fix that in a second, but just lifting up the detail in the shadows and the black. So I've given the shadows 100 as a value, and the blacks I'm going to sit around about 50. Now, to fix these highlights and the whites, you will remember the whites are the top end of the spectrum there. So I'm just going to drop those down. I'll give those about -50, and the same with the whites. Sorry, the highlights. Same thing. I'm just going to tap the letter P, and I can see that I'm starting to get some reasonable sort of recovery there. Details in the shadow area, still looking like shadows, but with detail. This sort of stuff over here. Now, and I've kept my highlights in there, which is looking good. The only other thing that I need to really sort of look at to make sure is happening. I've even got a little bit more room in the exposure sort of area there, which might require me coming back and having a play with the contrast and so on. But that's we'll see when we fix up this blue color cast. So beautiful blue sky, but I can see that the tones in the green are also holding a lot of blue, and also in the neutral areas. So what I'm going to do is to just quickly have a look at this area down here, which because of its grey sort of tone, gravel is grey. I should be able to use this with the color sampler tool to just pop in and drop a color sample. I can option click, to cut it away if I'm not happy with where it was, but I think that's pretty good. And I can see in my numbers here that the red and the green channels are pretty much in balance. I've got a quite an excess of blue, which is what's causing the color cast. So I'm just going to come back, fit that in the view, and as I make my changes, I'm just going to keep my eye on this color sampler. In fact, I could pop in a second one there just to which is often good practice, just to make sure that I've got a fairly similar sort of result, or that I can at least double check my results across a couple of areas. Okay, so let's go with that. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop over into the tone curve area, and I'm going to have a look at the point curves, specifically the blue channel. So I'm going to adjust the blue channel only to chop out some blue in the image, but I'm wanting to keep an eye on these values. So I'm just going to start in the middle of the tone and pop in a point, and I can click and drag down, or I can use the down arrows, and you can see as I'm dragging this down that I'm actually getting closer to having my values all in balance, which is the the idea. I'm just going to stop there for a second before I go anywhere else. RGB values of 147, 145, 147, so they're now pretty much in balance. There's only 2 points the difference there, and about 5 or 7 points the difference here. I'm not too concerned about that. I'm thinking that's pretty good compared to what was there before. Now I'm just going to toggle this pane only, either by clicking the icon downstairs here or Command Option P, and you can see how the blue cast has pretty much disappeared from the areas where it's not working in the image. I'm pretty happy with that. So if I want to make any further adjustments to curves and so on, I can. I can have a look at boosting the overall brightness. I'm actually going to leave that, I think, because let's zero that. Because I think I can get a little bit more out of the exposure. In fact, I think what I'm doing here is probably pushing it too far. I would normally do this stuff in Photoshop rather than really push it here, but let's see what we can get. Lack of contrast, too much contrast, a little bit of contrast, and once again, the rule of thumb when making these sorts of adjustments, don't be afraid to knock back the saturation to just sort of polish things up a bit, and have them look the way they ought to. So using the keyboard shortcut again, Command Option P, these are the changes that have occurred on this window, which basically there you go. And in the blue channel of the point curve, that's done that job. In fact, if I hit the letter Q, I can see my before and afters, and I'm thinking that that's pretty good. Potentially the only other thing that I would adjust in Photoshop would be to get back into Photoshop, mask out the changes there, because the original blue with the color cast and all that sort of stuff, it makes an amazing looking sky. Kind of blackens the tree a little bit, but I could bring back some of that original blue if I liked. But for the moment, that's a good base adjustment.